Job chapter 29. And Job again took up his discourse and said, "Oh, that I were as in the month of old, as in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone upon my head, and by his light I walked through the darkness. And I was in my prime, when the friendship of God was upon my tent, when the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were all around me, when my steps were washed with butter, and the rock poured out for me streams of oils. When I went out to the gate of the cities, when I prepared my seat in the square, the young man saw me and withdrew, and the aged rose and stood. The princes refrained from talking and laid their hands on their mouth. The voice of the noble was hushed, and their tongue stuck to the roof of their mouth. When the ear heard, it called me blessed. And when the eyes saw, I approved, because I delivered the poor who cried for help, and the fatherless who had none to help him. The blessing of him who was about to perish came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like the robe and the turban. When you listen to Job's the plea, so he's talking about how he lived, how really he helped other people, and how he was respected by the people. And he says, when God was with me. So what he's saying is, God is no longer with me anymore. This is why it's happening. When God was with me, I was respected. I was enjoying my prosperity, and my life was well. But because God is no longer with me, I just don't have this anymore. But I just want to say, my life was always been righteous. And when you look at the verse 14, this sum it up exactly what he wanted to say. He wanted to say, I put on righteousness, and it clothed me, and my justice was like a robe and a turban. So he is saying, my life was just living the life of righteousness. Whether you acknowledge, whether you actually just say it or not, this is how I lived. So he was making very strong case for himself that, I did not do anything wrong. I don't deserve to really just to suffer the way I'm suffering now. And he's just making very, very strong case for himself. However, we're going to continue to see this, but he think that he put on the righteousness as a cloth for himself. But whose righteousness is this? Is this God's righteousness, or is that his righteousness? It was his righteousness, not God's righteousness. So this is a kind of like traps that we easily fall into. By doing good things that actually show my actually good heart to other people, doing good things, and this is something I've been doing as a good person, and literally just I'm a humanitarianist, right? I do good things to the people, so I should deserve to really just receive something good. But that's not the case. But let's continue to read on. Verse 15. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy, and I searched out the cause of him, whom I did not know. I broke the fangs of the unrighteous and made him drop his prey from his teeth. Then I thought, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. My root spread out to the waters. With the dew all night on my branches, my glory fresh with me, and my bows ever new in my hand. Man listened to me and waited and kept silence for my counsel. After I spoke, they did not speak again, and my words dropped upon them. They waited for me as for the rain, and they opened their mouth as for the spring rain. I smiled. Yeah?
Hey, Kim.
I'm sorry? Oh. I smiled on them when they had no confidence, and the light of my face that they did not cast down. I chose their way and sat as chief, and I lived like a king among his troops, like one who comforts mourners. So what Job is saying is, I have done all these good things. And, as you can see here, I have been helping people. I was actually just to be on their side, and people waiting for my counsels. So he was listing out all the good things that he had done. So if this is not righteous, what else is righteous? I have done what I actually suppose, I don't have to do this, but I show my heart to really help other people because I want to live a righteous life. So he was just kind of advocating that how well he lived and how he helped other people. So everybody's, they really received the grace from me. And he's just saying, this is how I lived my life. In chapter 30, but now, since now all his prosperity is taken away from him, his health is taken away, and now he's in a situation, it's like nothing left on him. But now they laugh at me, men who are younger than I, whose father I would have disdained. So said the dogs of my flock, what could I gain from the strength of their hands, men whose vigor is gone. Through want and hard hunger, they gnaw the dry ground by night and the waste and desolations. They pick saltwort and the leaves of bushes, and the roots of the broom's tree for their food. They are driven out from human company. They shout after them as after a thief. In the gullies of torrents they must dwell, in holes of the earth and of the rocks. Among the bushes they bray, under the nettles they huddle together. A senseless, a nameless brood, they have been whipped out of the land. And now I have become their songs, I am a byword to them. They abhor me, they kept aloof from me, and they do not hesitate to spit at the sight of me. Because God has loosed my cord and humbled me, they have cast off restraint in my presence. On my right hand the rabble rise, they push away my feet. They cast up against me their ways of destructions. They break up my path, they promote my calamity. They need no one to help them. As though a wide breach they come, amid the crash they roll on. Terrors are turned upon me. My honor is pursued as by the wind, and my prosperity has passed away like a cloud. And now my soul is poured out within me. Days of afflictions have taken hold of me. The night racks my bones, and the pain that gnaw me takes no rest. With the great force my garment is disfigured. It binds me about like the color of my tunics. God has cast me into the mire, and I have become like the dust and ashes. When you read what the Job is saying, there's one thing that we're learning here. When Job had everything, when he had wealth, he was prospered, and he was able to really share his wealth with other people, helping other people. When everything was taken away, when he had nothing, what happened to the people? They all left. The people who actually just respected Job, listened for his counsels, are all gone. This is something we see quite often in this world. When you have something, people come. People all come to you and become your friend. But now, when you lose everything, what happens to those people? They all disappear. They're all gone. Why? Because they actually came to you and looking for something to get from you. But if you don't have anything to share, they all go away. This is the life. This is how most people behave. There are not many people who come to you because who you are. They come to you, for most of the people come to us because the things that we have that they can gain from. If you don't have anything to really give, they don't stick around. They all go away. This is exactly what Job saw. People who used to come to him, they no longer come to him anymore because Job has nothing to share with them. And Job is saying, literally, God put me into this. And when you look at the verse 19, God has cast me into the mire, and I have become like a dust and ashes. This is true. Very true. When we think we have something that we can share with other people, that I think that I actually have strength, that I have a power, I have a knowledge, I have an honor, I have a fame, I got something, then I think, oh, I have to gain all this because I'm good. Because I'm good. I actually gain all this respect and I gain all this wealth because I worked hard for this. And we think this is all due to my hard work. Because of who I am, I have gained all this respect, I gained this wealth, and I gained this fame, I gained this honors. But you know what? Bible literally tells us who we are from the very beginning. That's how God showed Adam. Adam had to work for 900 some odd years, toiling the land. What he saw was earth and dust. That's literally God was showing to Adam. This is who you are. What are we? Dust of the earth. We're nothing more than a dust of the earth. Not because I'm smart, not because I'm actually good, not because I worked hard, that I gain what I have. Which is what most people from this world think of. But from God's perspective, that's not true. God said, everything is mine. Gold is mine, silver is mine, everything is mine. Nothing belongs to us. We don't own anything. God actually granted to us. God left with us to do certain work. But we take that and we assume that's mine. But that wasn't mine from the beginning. This is why when we leave, we have to leave everything behind. We can't take anything from this world. We cannot take fame, we cannot take honor, we cannot take any wealth, we cannot take anything. We have to leave everything here and leave empty hands. Why? Because that's how we came into this world. We didn't bring anything to this world. We came with the empty hands. We are the dust of the earth. God is keep teaching us through the Bible. You are nothing but the dust. You don't have anything. I've given it to you. It is the grace. But we actually fight over each other and say, oh, how come they have more than I do? We fight over who has more than me. It is not my decisions how much I should have. It is God's decisions who would have what. Just like how God is a potter and he makes something out of the clay. Whether he makes things out of the clay and make it as the gold plate, silver plate, or just nothing but just the clay. Who decides that? Do I decide it as a clay? No, I don't. It is the potter who makes and decide which one will become a gold plate or silver plate or even bronze plate. Do we actually say to God, I said, make me a silver plate? Why are you not making me as a gold plate? I don't make that decision. Who makes that decision? God makes that decision. Why am I not a gold plate? Why am I not a, something better? I don't decide it. We think we have a control. We think we can actually ask God to make me a gold plate. We don't. We always want to be golden plate. But that's not my decision. That's God's decision. God makes whoever he would decide to make a gold plate versus silver plate or something else. There's nothing for us to really complain to God why he made me the way he made me. It is God's decision. There's nothing for us to really fight for it or argue about it. But most of us, we can't stand it. Why couldn't you make me better? Why couldn't you just make things better for me? Why can't you just give me more money? Why can't you just give me more wealth? No. God makes us who we are, and that was totally his decision. And it's very difficult for us to acknowledge that. Why him? Why him? Because he's the creator. And we're the creation. We don't decide it. So, God is actually putting us to dust and ashes to see who we are. When we got to that point, we realize who we are. We realize we are the creation and he is the creator. And that's exactly what Bible is telling us, as Job is confessing. When you go back to verse 19, God has cast me down into the mire, and I have become like the dust and ashes. Yes, that's exactly what God does. Just like when Jacob, he's going after blessings. He wanted to gain everything he could. Anything that he grabs, he won't let it go. And God takes everything away from him. Literally put Jacob to the dust and ashes to realize who he is and see who God is. Verse 20 says, I cried to you for help, and you do not answer me. I stand, and you only look at me. You have turned cruel to me. With the might of your hand, you persecute me. You lift me up on the wind, and you make me ride on it, and you toss me about in the roar of the storm. Absolutely. That's exactly what God is doing to Job, to see how much I blessed you, what I have given you, what I have left with you. For I know that you will bring me to death and to the house appointed for all living. Yet does not one in a heap of ruin stretch out his hand, and in his disaster cry for help. Did not I weep for him whose day was hard? Was not my soul grieved for the needy? But when I hoped for good, evil came. When I waited for light, darkness came. My inward part are in turmoils and never still. Days of afflictions come to meet me. I go about darkened, but not by the sun. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. I am a brother of jackals and companion of ostriches. My skin's turned black and falls from me, and my bones burn with heat. My lyre is turned to mourning, and my pipe to the voice of those who weep. So when you look at this, I have lived a righteous life. I shared a lot of stuff with the people. And look what I got now. He take everything away from me. I don't have anything. And what I expect for blessing, and he's giving me disaster. And I would keep referencing, what is the blessing? What is the blessing? As I mentioned, what Bible tells us blessing is different than what this world is defined as blessing. And we expect a lot more money, honor, prosperity, well life, good health. That's what we look for as a blessing. But when you look at the Bible and the people who lived for the Lord, there are not many people who lived the way of a life they were expecting. Instead, they were persecuted, they were killed, they didn't live a well life. Why? Because they were doing what they were supposed to be doing in this world, what they were sent for. When you look at the verse, chapter 31, he's making the final statement, almost that he's actually standing at the judgment seats and he's making the final statements and, defending himself. So let's listen to what he's saying. I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I gaze at aversion? What would be my portion from God above and my heritage from the Almighty on high? I'm not calamity for the unrighteousness and disaster for the workers of iniquities? Does not he see my ways and number all my steps? So what is he saying? Well, doesn't he know what I've done? Couldn't he see? He's the creator. He's God. He should have known how I actually live my life. He should see everything. I don't have to explain. Don't you know the steps that I've taken? If I have walked with the falsehood, and my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighted in a just balance, and let God know my integrity. Wow. He's making very bold statements to God, it said. Right? Hey, you know how I lived. Just put me on the measure. Scale. Just balance how I lived. And you know what? God knows my integrity. If my step has turned aside from the way, and my heart has gone after my eyes, and if any spot has stuck to my hands, then let me sow and another eat, and let what grows for me be rooted out. So he's saying, all right, if I have done anything wrong, for everything what I actually just worked hard for, maybe somebody else should take it if I have done anything wrong. But if I did live the righteous life, there should be mine. If my heart has been enticed toward a woman, and I have lain in wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let other bow down on her. For that would be a heinous crime. That would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges. So what he's saying is, I have not done anything wrong. If I've done anything wrong, if I actually entice another, neighbor's wife, let my wife be taken away to another, then I will tell you, I did not do anything wrong. And he just keep strengthening and emphasizing how much righteous life he lived. For that would be a fire that consumes as far as Abaddon, and it would burn to the root of all my increase. If I have rejected the cause of my manservants or my maidservants, when they brought a complaint against me, what then shall I do when God rises up? When he makes iniquity, what shall I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? If I have withheld anything that the poor desire, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel alone, and the fatherless has not eaten of it, for from my youth the fatherless grew up with me as with a father, and from my mother's womb I guided the widow. If I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or the needy without covering, if his body has not blessed me, and if he was not warmed with the flea of my sheep, if I have raised my hands against the fatherless because I saw my help in the gate, then let my shoulder blade fall from my shoulders, and let my arm be broken from its socket. For I was in terror of calamity from God, and I could not have faced his majesty. If I had made gold my trust, or called fine gold my confidence, if I have rejoiced because my wealth was abundant, or because my hand had not found much, if I had looked at the sun when it shone, or the moon moving in splendor, and my heart has been secretly enticed, and my mouth has kissed my hand, this also would be an iniquity to be punished by the judge, for I would have been false to God above. If I have rejoiced at the ruin of him who hated me, or exulted when evil overlooked me, I have not let my mouth sin by asking for his life with a curse. If the man of my tent have not said, who is there that has not been filled with his meat? The sojourner has not lodged in the street. I have opened my doors to the travelers. If I have concealed my transgression as others do, by hiding my iniquities in my heart. Because I stood in great fear of the multitude, and the contempt of families terrified me, so that I kept silence and did not go out of door. Oh, that I had one to hear me! Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Oh, that I had the indictment written by my adversary. Surely I would carry it on my shoulders. I would bind it on me as a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. Like a prince, I would approach him. If land has carried out against me, and if furrows have wept together, if I have eaten its yield without payment, and made it owners breathe their last, let thorn grows instead of wheat, and fowls weeds instead of barley. The word of Job are ended. What is Job saying? When you actually listen to the Job in chapter 31, what you see most is if. If I had done this, if I had done this, if I had done this. What is he saying? I have never done this. And God knows it. And he knows what I have done, how I live my life. So he's making the statements that he knows that I lived righteous life. This is why he's saying in verse 35, oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. If I'm lying, answer me. Say something that I didn't do this. So he was making strong statements. I lived righteous life. what I'm suffering is not because I have sinned, not because I didn't give out people, I didn't actually share my wealth, I was not nice to others. It's got nothing to do with me. I lived well life, righteous life. I've done good things to others. I don't deserve for this, is what he's saying. So he's making that bold statement, and this is the last statement that he made. In chapter 32, Elihu, we don't know exactly where he came from and when he actually showed up, because he's not one of those three friends who came at the very beginning. So we don't know when he joined it. But it seems like he listened to all the friends and also Job saying. So these three men ceased to answer Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then Elihu, the son of Barachel the Buzite, of the family of Ram, burned with anger. He burned with anger at Job because he justified himself rather than God. He burned with anger also at Job's three friends because they had not found no answer, although they had declared Job to be in the wrong. Now Elihu had waited to speak to Job because they were older than he, and when Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, he burned with anger. So it seems like Elihu is the youngest of all the friends who came. So he is younger than Job. And Elihu, the son of Barachel the Buzite, answered and said, I am young in years, and you are aged. Therefore I was timid and afraid to declare my opinion to you. I said, let days speak, and many years teach wisdom. But it is the spirit in man, the breath of the mighty, that makes him understands. It is not the old who are wise, nor the aged who understand what is right. So what he's saying is, just because you guys are older than me does not mean you are wise. So, all right. Therefore, I say, listen to me. Let me also declare my opinions. Behold, I waited for your words, and I listened for your wise saying, while you searched out what to say. I gave you my attention, and behold, there was none among you who refuted Job, or who answered his word. Be aware, lest you say, we have found wisdom. God may vanquish him, not a man. He has not directed his word against me, and I will not answer him with your speeches. They are dismayed, they answered no more. They have not a word to say. And shall I wait? Because they do not speak, because they stand there and answer no more. I also will answer with my share. I also will declare my opinion, for I am full of words. The spirit within me constrains me. Behold, my belly is like wine that has no vent, like no new wineskins ready to burst. I must speak that I may find relief. I must open my lips and answer. I will not show partially to any man, or any flattery towards any person, for I do not know how to flatter. Else my Maker would soon take me away. So he waited and waited for others to finish, and he was holding his breath, to just waiting for his turn to say. So he waited, and let all Job's friends and Job speak for themselves, and he just kept listening and listening and listening. But he's got a lot to say, but he was holding his breath because he was the youngest one among all the people. And then when nobody actually spoke, when everyone silenced, and he was literally burst up and said, okay, now let me say it. Now I want you to listen. And I tell you one thing, just because you guys are older than me does not mean you guys are wise and you are saying the right thing. So just pay attention to what I have to say. Okay, so let's listen to what he has to say. But now, hear my speech, O Job, and listen to all my words. Behold, I open my mouth. The tongue in my mouth speaks. My words declares the uprightness of my heart. And what my lips know, they speak sincerely. The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of Almighty gives me life. Answer me, if you can. Set your words in order before me. Take your stands. Behold, I am toward God as you are. I too was pinched off from the piers of clay. Behold, no fear of me need terrify you. My pressure will not be heavy upon you. Surely you have spoken in your ears, and I have heard the sound of your words. You say, I am pure, without transgressions. I am clean, and there is no iniquity in me. Behold, he finds occasions against me. He counts me as his enemy. He puts my feet in the stocks and watches all my path. Behold, in this you are not right. I will answer you, for God is greater than man. What Elihu is saying is true. You claim that you live the righteous life. But you know what? God is greater than you. You cannot really speak to him like that. You cannot proclaim, and you cannot just keep saying that you're righteous and you're pure and you didn't do anything wrong. Even though you may think you're pure and righteous in your own eyes, but not before God. You can say that to other people, but not to God. "13. Why do you contend against him, saying he will answer none of man's words? For God speaks in one way, and in two, though man does not perceive it." This is very important to remember. Listen to what he's saying. God speaks in one way, and in two, though man does not perceive it. That's very, very true. Even in the Bible, he repeats himself. He just saying the same thing over and over and over. Just, for me, it's just countless times he actually say the same thing throughout the Bible. But you know what? People don't perceive it. People don't understand it. People don't get it. That's very true. Not once, not twice, but he kept talking, same thing over and over and over. Don't get it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on man, while they slumber on their beds, then he opens the ear of man and terrifies them with warnings, that he may turn man aside from his deed and conceal pride from a man. He keeps back his souls from the pit, his life from perishing by the sword. Man is also rebuked with pain on his bed, and with continual strife in his bones, so that his life loatheth bread, and his appetites the choicest food. His flesh is so wasted away that it cannot be seen, and his bones that were not seen stick out. His soul draws near the pit, and his life to those who bring death. If there be for him an angel, a mediator, one of the 1,000 to declare man what is right for him, and he is merciful to him, and say, deliver him from going down into the pit. I have found a ransom. Let his flesh become flesh with youth. Let him return to the days of his youthful vigor. Then man prays to God, and he accepts him. He sees his face with shout of joy, and he restores to man his righteousness. He sings before man and say, I sinned and perverted what was right, and it was not repaid to me. He has redeemed my soul from going down into the pit, and my life shall look upon the light. Behold, God does all these things twice, 3 times with a man, to bring back his souls from the pit, that he may be lighted with the light of life. Pay attention, O Job, listen to me, be silent, and I will speak. If you have any words, answer me. Speak, for I desire to justify you. If not, listen to me, be silent, and I will teach you wisdom. He's also making very, very bold statement as well. Say, you're wrong. You don't understand. If you have to say it. But you know what? Be quiet, because you don't know what you're talking about. Think about this for a moment. Why did God send us? Why did God create us and send to this world? To live just well life, eat well, work well, sleep well, be healthy. Is that the purpose of God that He put on us, to live a well life in this world? Or God has other plan for us? But we don't want that. We want something different. It's like, think about for a second. I don't know how many of you are actually, like to exercise. Right? You do. Okay, great. Eating is good, or exercising is good? We're tempted to eat something. When we see food, delicious food, we like to eat. Exercise is difficult. You have to sweat it. You have to push yourself hard. You have to drag yourself to the gym to really just like sweat it out. Drips of your sweat. When you actually exercise for 30 minutes so hard, you burn maybe 200 calories while you are actually eating something like pizza that's almost 500 calorie plus. You worked very hard for 30 minutes and you sweat it out, but you only burned the 250 calories while you're actually eating pizza. It's 500 plus calories. When you actually compare it, you shouldn't be eating pizza. But you know what? When we see good pizza, yummy. I want to eat pizza. That's tempting. It's easier for us to grab and eat pizza. I'm not just saying we're all lover of a pizza, but any good food that you see, it's easy for us to we're very tempted to eat that food. It's easy for us to do so. But dragging us to the gym and sweat it out for 30 minutes is hard. You have to push yourself, right? In this world, what do we want? We want to eat something good. We want to live a good life. We don't want any pain. But you know what? No pain, no gain. But you know what? We don't want pain because it's painful. Who wants a pain? We don't want that. We want to enjoy things without any pain whatsoever. So when we bless other people, we bless people that I hope everything goes well. I hope you have good wealth. Your good health. We bless them with all these good things. I don't want you to have any trouble in your life. We don't want your pains. Everything goes well. You know what? That's exactly what people are expecting. We want to live a life without any pain whatsoever because we don't want that. But you know what? No pain, no gain. God throw us into the wilderness, and sometimes he threw us to the, the storm. We don't want that, but that's what God does. We don't want that, but we don't decide. God decides. And God is actually reminding us why we came to this world. And we forget why we came to this world. And we want to ignore what God had planned. We don't care what God planned. I don't care what He is really what His plan is. I want to live the life that I want. That's most of the people. They want to live the life they want. And they pray to God and said, give me the things that I need, what I want. I don't care what you want from me, but give me what I want. Give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that. That's what people ask for. And they don't care what God has planned. They have no interest whatsoever. They don't want to know. They don't care. But God has planned. An ultimate goal, God wants to save us first. That is the ultimate blessing. But who cares about the salvation? Most of the people don't care about salvation. That doesn't do anything good for me. I want to enjoy something in this life. I don't care about what happens after I die. I don't know whether there is anything life after death. So who cares? Give me what I can enjoy in this world. Chapter 34. Then Elihu answered and said, hear my words, you wise men, and give ears to me, you who know, for the ear tests the words, as the palate tastes the food. Let us choose what is right. Let us know among ourselves what is good. For Job has said, I am in the right, and God has taken away my right. In spite of my right, I am counted a liar. My wound is incurable, though I am without transgression. Which is exactly right. He's been saying from the very beginning that I am righteous. He's been claiming that. What man is like Job, who drinks up scoffing like water, who travels in company with evildoers, and walks with wicked men? For he has said, it profits a man nothing that he should take delight in God. Therefore hear me, you men of understanding. Far be it from God that he should do wickedness, and from the Almighty that he should do wrong. For according to the work of man he will repay them, and according to his way he will make it befall him. Of a truth, God will not do wickedly, and the Almighty will not pervert justice. Who gave him charge over the earth? Who laid on him the whole world? If he should set his heart to it, and gather to himself in spirit and his breath, all flesh would perish together, and man would return to dust. If you have understanding, hear this. Listen to what I say. Shall one who hates justice govern? Will you condemn him who is righteous and mighty? Who say to the king, worthless one, and to nobles, wicked man, who show no partiality to prince, nor regard the rich more than the poor, for they are all the work of his hands. In a moment they die. At midnight the people are shaken and pass away, and the mighty are taken away by no human hand. For his eyes are on the ways of a man, and he sees all his steps. There is no gloom or deep darkness where the evildoer may hide himself. For God has no need to consider a man further, that he should go before God in judgment. He shattered the mighty without investigations, and set orders in their place. Though knowing their work, he overturns them in the night, and they are crushed. He strikes them for their wickedness in a place for all to see, because they turn aside from following him and had no regard for any of his ways, so that they caused the cry of the poor to come him, and he heard the cry of afflicted. When he is quiet, who can condemn? When he hides his face, who can behold him? Whether it be a nation or man, that godless man should not reign, that he should not ensnare the people. For has anyone said to God, I have borne punishment, I will not offend any more? Teach me what I do not see. If I have done iniquity, I will not do it no more. Will he then make repayment to suit you, because you reject it? For you must choose, and not I. Therefore, declare what you know. Man of understanding will say to me, and the wise man who hears me will say, Job speaks without knowledge. His words are without insight. Would that Job were tried to the end, because he answered like wicked man? For he adds rebellions to his sins. He claps his hands among us and multiplies his words against him. So, what Elihu is saying, he's putting more focus on God. Who is God, and who are we? How dare we can really just speak up to God and say, why are you doing this? We're not in a position to say. We cannot say those things. If it is not right, how can we judge us? If he is not the righteous, how can we judge us? If the judge is a sinner, he will never be a judge, because he's not in a position to judge us at all. But he's a judge because he's right. What he's doing is right. So, even though he put us in a situations we suffered and we are persecuted, but you have to trust that his way is right. This is one of the things that I kept mentioning at the very beginning when we were covering the Genesis. At the very beginning I said this. You have to trust that God is good and he's just. You have to believe that and then read the Bible. If you don't trust that and read the Bible will not make any sense at all, because you're not going to understand, because it makes no sense to you. If you don't think what God is doing is not righteous and not a good way, then there's nothing to read, because it absolutely makes no sense. But if you trust that God is just and God is right and God is good and God is with you, even though we go through this difficult time, you have to trust that he's not doing this to just punish us. He's doing this for our good. And that's what Elihu is just kept saying. And he continued, and Elihu answered and said, Do you think this to be just? Do you say it is my right before God that you asked, What advantage have I? How am I better off then if I had sinned? I will answer you, and your friends with you. Look at the heavens and see, and behold the clouds which are higher than you. If you have sinned, what do you accomplish against him? And if your transgression are multiplied, what do you do to them? This verse 6 is really, really important for you and for us to remember. Why? Because think about what he's saying. When we sin, what does that do to God? When we do good things, what does that do to God? Nothing. Imagine, and I think I actually gave this examples in the past, but let me just give it again. let's assume that I saw the cockroaches coming out of the kitchen sink, and I wanted to kill that cockroach, but I have I have a merciful heart, then I let the cockroach to just run away. Okay? That's a good heart. I didn't kill the cockroach. I didn't crush him. And then cockroach was like so touched by his heart. Next day, he brought all this crumbles and dead bugs in front of my door, just piled up all this like dead bugs or like garbages in front of my door. Piled up. I opened the door and there's like garbages like in front of my house. What are you going to do with that stuff? Are you going to say like, oh, cockroach just like did something good to me? Like, oh, this piled up as a cutie stuff like in front of my door. Would you be like thinking like, oh, it's so good? Or are you going to cursing it out? I should have killed that cockroaches. Like, what would you say? What does that pile up of the dead bugs going to do to you? Is that something you're going to enjoy? You're going to be like really bad that you have to now clean up this mess. Vacuum it. What does that good to us? But the cockroach, that was the best he can do. You're just piling up the worthless stuff in front of my door. Anything good? Nothing good to me. There's more burden to me that I have to do more work. From God's point of view, our goodness, our righteousness, our sin, what does that do to God? Nothing at all. There's nothing that meaningful to him. And this is exactly what he's saying. If you have sinned, what do you accomplish against him? And if your transgressions are multiplied, what do you do to him? Nothing. If you are righteous, what do you give to him? Or what does he receive from your hands? Nothing. Whether we actually sin, whether we do anything righteous, it does nothing to God. We think, oh, I've done this great things. God should be really just, happy. Of course he should be happy. But you know what? It doesn't do anything for him, to God. Our righteous is nothing. What did Isaiah say about our righteousness? Worthless clothes. Worthless clothes. It means nothing to God. Even though it is nothing to God, here he is pleased. Even if you sin, it does nothing to God. No meaning to him. This is something we have to keep in our head. Your wickedness concerns a man like yourself, and your righteousness a son of man. Because of the multitude of oppressions, people cried out. They call for help because of the arms of the mighty. But none say, where is God my maker, who gives us songs in the night? Who teaches us more than the beast of the earth, and makes us wiser than the bird of the heavens? There they cried out, but he does not answer. Because of the pride of evil men, surely God does not hear an empty cry, nor does the Almighty regard it. How much less when you say that you do not see him, that the case is before him, and you are waiting for him. And now because his anger does not punish, and he does not take much note of transgression, Job opens his mouth in empty talk. He multiplies words without knowledge. So, Most of the stuff that Elihu is saying right. And he continued. And Elihu continued and say, Bear with me a little, and I will show you, for I have yet something to say on God's behalf. I will get my knowledge from afar, and ascribe righteous to my Maker. For truly my words are not false. One who is perfect in knowledge is with you. Behold, God is mighty, and does not despise any. He is mighty in strength of understanding. He does not keep the wicked alive, but gives the afflicted their right. He does not withdraw his eyes from righteous, but with kings on the thrones. He sets themselves forever, and they are exalted. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. This is the things that I just kept saying. You have, and we have to believe God is good. And if you lose that faith, then nothing you can trust what God has to say and what He's doing. But if you actually trust Him, He is good, and He's righteous, and He's just, and He's always loves us, and He wants to do something good for us, then you have to trust Him. Even persecutions, even all this hardness, is it good for me? And if they are bound in chains and caught in the cords of afflictions, then he declares to them their work and their transgressions, that they are behaving arrogantly. He opens their ears to instructions and commands that they return from iniquity. If they listen and serve Him, they complete their days in prosperity and their years in pleasantness. But if they do not listen, but perish by the sword and die without knowledge. And this reminds us, Deuteronomy chapter 28. God laid the blessings and curse in front of us. You choose. You choose. But if they do not listen, they perish by the sword and die without knowledge. The godless in heart cherish anger. They do not cry for help when He binds them. They die in youth, and their life ends among the cult prostitute. He delivers the afflicted by their afflictions, and opens their ears by adversary. He also allured you out of distress into a broad place where there was no cramping, and what was set on your table was full of fatness. But you are full of the judgment on the wicked. Judgment and justice seize you. Beware, lest the wrath entice you into scoffing, and let not the greatness of the ransom, truth, you aside. Will you cry for help avail to keep you from distress, or all the force of your strength? Do not long for the night, when the people vanish in their place. We want to live in the night, something that God does not see, so that I can do what I want, so He doesn't really just see anything. So most of the wicked people say, God does not know what I do. He doesn't care. Absolutely not. That's not true. He does care. And He sees everything, what we do. Regardless of a night or day, He sees everything. He searches for our heart. He knows my heart. I may actually deceive other people, their eyes, but we cannot hide it from God, because God knows my heart. Take care. Do not turn to iniquity, for this you have chosen rather than affliction. Behold, God is exalted in His power. Who is a teacher like Him? Who has prescribed for him his way, or who can say, You have done wrong? Remember to extol His work, of which man having sung. All mankind has looked on it, man beholds it from afar. Behold, God is great, and He knows Him not. The number of His years is unsearchable. For He draws up of the drops of water. They distill his mist in rain, which the skies pour down and drops on mankind abundantly. Can anyone understand the spreading of the clouds, the thundering of his pavilions? Behold, he scatters his lightning about him and covers the roof of the seas. For by these he judges people. He gives food in abundance. He covers his hands with the lightning and commands it to strike the mark. He crashing declares his presence. The cattle also declares that he rises. At this also my heart trembles and leaps out of his place. Keep listening to the thunder of his voice and the rumbling that comes from his mouth. Under the whole heavens he let it go, and he's lightning to the corners of the earth. After it is his voice roars. He thunders with his majesty voice, and he does not refrains the lightnings when his voice is heard. God thunders wondrously with his voice. He does great things that we cannot comprehend. Absolutely correct. A lot of things that he does, we don't comprehend. Like, we don't understand what he's doing because we don't see the future. We don't know what he's doing. Why he's doing, we don't understand. We don't comprehend. Because we don't comprehend, we complain. Why is he doing this to me? Like, for example, when parents is actually, disciplining the kids always say, why do this to me? I don't understand. Of course you don't understand because you don't see what's coming in your life. But parent sees. So parent is actually just teaching, disciplining so that the children could walk in the right path. But when parents is disciplining them, they don't understand why the parents are doing what they're doing. Same thing for us. It is difficult for us to understand because we don't comprehend. For to the snow, he says, a fall on the earth. Likewise to the downpour, his mighty downpour. He seals up the hand of every man, that all men whom he made may know it. Then he beasts go into their lair and remains in their dens. From his chamber comes the whirlwind, and cold from the scattering wind. By the breath of God ice is given, and the broad waters are frozen fast. He loads the thick clouds with moistures. The clouds scatters his lightnings. They turn around and around by his guidance to accomplish all that he commands them on the face of the habitable world. Whether for corrections, or for his land, or for love, he causes to happen. Hear this, O Job. Stop and consider the wondrous work of God. Do you know how God lays his commands upon them and causes the lightning of his cloud to shine? Do you know the balancing of the clouds, the wondrous work of him who is perfect in knowledge? You whose garments are not hot when the earth is still because of the south wind? Can you liken, spread out the skies a hand hard as the cast of metal mirror? Teach us what we shall say to him. We cannot draw up our case because of darkness. Shall it be told him that I would speak? Did a man ever wish that he would be swallowed up? And now no one looks on the light when it is bright in the skies, when the wind has passed and cleared them. One of the north comes a golden splendor. Gold is clothed with awesome majesty. The Almighty, we cannot find him. He's great in power. Justice and abundant righteousness he will not violate. Therefore, men fear him. He does not regard any who are wise in their own conceit. So, this is something we have to remember, what verse 23 says. The Almighty We cannot find him. He is great in power, justice, and abundant righteous. He will not violate. Therefore man fear him. He does not regard any who are wise in their own conceit. If we think we're smarter than God and wiser than God, you can boast about your knowledge, your wisdom, and your knowledge. But you know what? It does not matter how smart you are, how wise you are. You will never reach God's knowledge and wisdom at all. Therefore, we will not know, we will not comprehend what he's doing, because we don't have better knowledge than God or wiser than God. So we have to accept, because we believe he's almighty, he's justice, and he's righteous, and he's good. We just have to believe in him, because that's all we can do. Most of the people don't trust that. That's why they want to rely on their own knowledge and their own wisdom. They think, I can do better than God. I don't need God. I can do things my own, because we trust ourselves. But what did God say in Romans? Let's just go Romans for a second. Romans chapter 1. We're going to read from verse 18, chapter 1, verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of a man, who is their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been declared, perceived, ever since the creation of the world, in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as a God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking. Then their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for image resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things. What is he saying? What is it Paul saying? They think they are smarter and wiser than God, but they are fools. They are fools, but they think they are smarter and wiser than God. But God actually make them fool. Now this time, turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 1. We're going to read from verse 18. For the word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made the foolish the wisdom of the world? For since it is wisdom of God, the world did not know God through wisdom. It pleased God through the folly of what we preach, to save those who believe. For Jews demand signs and Greeks seek wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and folly to Gentiles. But to those who are called both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolish the foolishness of God is wiser than man, and the wickedness of God is stronger than man. So, how much can we be wise? How much do we know? Let me ask you this. How much do you think our human knows about our own body? Not much. We're still searching. We're still trying to figure out how our body works. Why our body works the way it's working. Why is a structure the way it was structured? When you actually look at the sophisticated machines or vehicles or automobiles, do you think this just came together by itself? Or we think there's a lot of engineering thought into it to make this kind of automobiles or machines or stuff. It does not come automatically. Someone had to design it the way it's working. If our body is a structure that we can't even figure it out how this body works, wouldn't he be much more wiser than us? That we can't still figure it out what's going on? Why this kind of a COVID things that are coming into our body and actually infects us and then, how it is actually being, mutated and stuff? We don't know. We know some, not all. We're still trying to figure it out. If our body is that sophisticated, wouldn't the creation or the creator who actually made us is much wiser and knowledgeable than any one of us? But we don't trust. How do we actually define that everything that we see in this world came about? Because of the two big energy collide. And then there's a big explosion. And then from small species started to mutate and came as who we are today and what we see in this world. That's how our science defines it. Really? It's truly up to the people, whoever wants to believe. There are people who decide to believe in science, and that's how our species came about. I personally decide not to believe the science and believe the creation. That don't mean I don't believe in any science. That's not what I mean. There are things that we should believe in science. I'm not denying all the science. But science is only discovering what was created in this world. We only know the portions of the things. We don't know everything. We're still discovering. You know what? Well, we're never going to find everything exactly. Where did the life come from? We don't know. This is all designed by the Creator. Who has more wisdom and knowledge? And who do you believe? I mean, obviously that's a choice that we have to make. We as a person have to choose which one you like to believe. I choose to believe in God. Other people may choose to believe in something else. It's up to them. It's a choice that we have to make. God does not force us to believe one or the other. We are the one who choose which one to believe. And as this Elihu is just saying, he is wiser, he is smarter, and he has more knowledge than any one of us. So who can say what he's doing is wrong? We cannot. Now, chapter 38, God appears. Finally, he's now making his statements as a judge. So now listen to what he has to say. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, "Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge. What is God saying? You have no knowledge. You don't understand. Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. Now he's saying, all right, fasten your belt. Now answer me, because I'm going to ask you lots of questions. Answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding. The first question he throws. When I lay the foundation of the earth, tell me if you have any understanding. Of course, nobody has any understanding. Nobody knows. And says, who determined its measurement? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its base sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy? So who was there when God creating everything? Was the mankind was ever there and saw what God did when he created everything? Nothing. We did not see. How he did it, why he built the way he built, nobody knows. Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb, when I made clouds its garments, and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed the limits for it, and set bars and doors, and said, though far shall you come, and no farther, and here shall your proud waves be stayed? Have you commanded the morning since your days begun, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and its feature stands out like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and their uplift arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the seas, or walked in the recess of the deep? Have you gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare it if you know all this. He's just asking many questions, and answer me if you know any of it. Of course, Job does not know how to answer. I don't know how to answer, because I don't know. I don't know how to answer. No one can. Where is the way to the dwelling of light, and where is the place of darkness, that you may take it to territory, and that you may discern and path to its home? You know, for you were born them, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouse of the snows, or have you seen the storehouse of the hail, which I have reserved for the times of trouble, for the days of battle and war? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, or where the earth wind is scattered upon the earth? Who has cleft the channel for the torrents of rain, and a way for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on a land where no man is, on the desert in which there is no man, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the ground sprout with grass? Has the rain a father? Or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did the ice come forth? And who has given birth to the forest of heaven? The waters become hard like stones, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades, or loose the cord of Orion? Can you lead from Mazzaroth in their season? Or can you guide the bear with its children? Do you know the ordinance of the heavens? Can you establish their rules on the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds that a flood of water may cover you? Can you send forth lightning and that they may go and say to you, here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or given understanding to the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom? Or who can still the water skins of the heavens? When the dust runs into a mess, and the clouds stick fast together, can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions when they crouch in their dens, or lie in wait in their thicket? Who provides for the raven its prey when its young one cries to God for help and wonder about for lack of food? God is asking lots of questions, but unfortunately, no answers. Job absolutely has no answers to give. And what God is showing? The difference between you and me. I am the creator and you are the creation. You think you know what you're talking about? You don't. And I'll show you what you don't know. Of course, none of us know. We can't answer any of the things that he's asking because we have no knowledge, we have no wisdom. What God is saying is, if you don't know, then you have to acknowledge that you're not smarter than me. You're not wiser than me. So you don't comprehend what I do. And he doesn't stop. He continued to ask questions. Do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Do you observe the calving of the doves? Can you number the month that they fulfill, and do you know the time when they give birth? When they crouch, bring forth their offsprings, and are delivered of their young? Their young ones become strong. They grow up in the open. They go out and do not return to them. Who has let the wild donkey go free? Who has loosed the bonds of the swift donkey, to whom I have given the arid plain for his home, and the salt land for his dwelling place? He scorns the tumult of the city. He hears not the shout of the drivers. He ranges the mountains as his pasturing, and he searches after every green things. Is the wild ox willing to serve you? Will he spend the night at your manger? Can you bind him in the furrow with ropes, or will he harrow the valley after you? Will you depend on him because his strength is great? And will you leave to him your labors? Do you have a faith in him that he will return your grain and gather it to your threshing floor? The wings of the ostrich wave proudly, but are they the pinions and plumage of love? For she leaves her eggs to the earth and lets them be warned on the ground, forgetting that a foot may crush them, and that the wild beast may trample them. She deals cruelly with her young, as if they were not hers. Though her labor being vain, yet she has no fear, because God has made her forget wisdom, and given her no share in understanding. When she rose herself to flee, she laughs at the horse and his rider. Do you give the horse his might? Do you clothe his neck with the mane? Do you make him leap like a locust? His majestic snorting is terrifying. His paw in the valley and exult in his strength. He goes out to meet the weapons. He laughs at fear and is not dismayed. He does not turn back and from the sword. Upon him rattle the quiver, the flashing spears, and the javelin. With fierceness and rage he swallows the ground. He cannot stand still at the sound of the trumpet. When the trumpet sounds, he say, "Ah!" He smells the battle from afar, the thunder of the captains and the shouting. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars and spread his wing towards the south? Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high? On the rock he dwells and makes his home on the rocky crag and stronghold. From there he spies out the prey. His eyes behold it from far away. His young ones suck up blood, and where the slain are, there is he. So he's explaining a lot of stuff, not just actually explaining. He's asking these questions that Job has no answers to. And some of the things we may actually answer now, but not everything we can still answer. And he's literally telling us, know who you are. Know who I am. And this is where our faith starts. Knowing who he is versus knowing who we are. Let's just wrap this up to here today. And then we continue the rest of the stuff and wrap this Job next week. And we can probably talk about some of the things we cover in Job. Is that good?
Yep, sounds good.